You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and you're about to listen to an interview between myself and Óskar from the band The Vintage Caravan. The reason for the conversation is to promote The Vintage Caravan's brand new release for 2018, Gateways. Let's have a listen to what Óskar has to say. Here we go.
Good, thank you. And you? Doing good?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I know you're from Iceland originally, but you live in Denmark now, don't you?
We've lived in Denmark. We lived there 2014-15, but we're relocated to Iceland.
Yeah. Iceland, okay.
We did 2 years there. Lived in my sister's lower floor, something. And then we have a base in Belgium though. If we're traveling, doing weekend shows here and there, we just stay in Belgium.
Yeah, well, the point I was going to make, you'll probably laugh at me, it's about 11 degrees Celsius here at the moment. So coming from Iceland, I'm talking to the wrong person about the cold, aren't I?
Yeah. We're in the same sort of. Yeah, we have the same feeling. I think it's around the same here.
Yeah. Oh, well, what do you do?
This summer has been like crazy for all of Europe except for Iceland. So it's been the coldest summer actually in 100 years.
So it's the coldest summer in Iceland, where it's been the hottest summer in continental Europe. That's bizarre.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Jesus. Yeah. God, who knows what the hell's going on?
Something's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, by the way, sorry about if you got some alarming messages earlier, like, I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. I was, I did 33, it was a 33-hour airport fiasco thing I had going yesterday, and it was pretty rough. Yeah, it was super.
What happened?
Super horrible.
33 hours.
I don't know exactly. Like, yeah. So we did one flight, and that took a while, and then we got to Barcelona in Spain, and the people there were like, we should have been like, already departed and everything, but but we were just still waiting, and we were like, what's going on? They're like, small technical thing, it will be no problem. And then like that took 4 hours, and then they're like, yeah, it's cancelled, and it's like, oh great. And then they sent us, we had to go like to an airport that was like an hour, like 75 kilometers away, and to get 1.5 hours of sleep, and then go back in the middle of the night.
Jeez,
and then drive back, and then there we had like our flight just didn't exist. It wasn't on any screens. It wasn't delayed. It just didn't exist, and we were like, what's happening? And the app said it was like going at 12, and it wasn't there, so it was not even listed and that kind of stuff. And that just, there was a protest. We actually participated in a protest at the airport. We like blocked their other lines and stuff. Yeah, it was absolutely mental.
Holy shit, that sounds like an ordeal.
Yeah. It was weird, security guards and stuff. It was weird, but it all worked out in the end with a lot of delays and stuff. But I think the flight where we actually went on just wasn't even listed like legally. I think it just wasn't in the data like.
So there's like 300 of you, or whatever there might have been, 100 of you, and just waiting and saying, "Where's our flight gone to, everybody? Where is it?"
Yeah, exactly. We just waited in the lines for it because they of course had other flights, and they just weren't like really listening to us. So we just went to the fucking line, and we just and they were like, "Next, please," and we're like, "Nope." And they were like, "What?" And they were like, "No, answer us. Like, tell us something. What's going on?" And they were just all just kind of like, "Oh." And then the flight, it was just super weird.
They can't treat people like that.
9. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was so weird. It was so yeah. Everybody, and like on top of all of this, they lost all of our luggage.
Yeah, that's when they do it.
My guitars are just somewhere. Yeah.
Do you know where they are at all? Have they told you what country they're in, or what?
They have not. I saw them in Spain. I saw them outside of the plane, and they took 1.5 hours to like. They were like, so we were taking so long here. We're just getting all the luggage aboard and getting it all, and it's all gonna be fine. And we're like, oh, okay. So that's why it took like, and it took like, I don't know, 1.5, maybe 2 hours till they were ready, and they were like, okay, all the luggage is here and fine, and then none of it arrived at the Icelandic airport.
Jesus Christ.
It's just kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, look, definitely didn't have an experience like you've just outlined. But my experience I had was in the US, and I was talking to Mortis about this actually. We were talking about fun and games on airlines, and I remember in 2001 going to the States and got off the plane from Sydney, and Los Angeles was supposed to get a connecting flight just up the road to San Francisco. And there was some sort of knock-on effect from some snowstorms that were happening in the eastern states of the US, and they took all of these planes off the board. And exactly like what you're saying, none of the planes that the actual flight that you're supposed to catch came back up. So, and I'm not. What I explained to Mortis, which I'll say to you, is, and I know Iceland. I've met a few people from Iceland, very polite, impeccable manners from Scandinavia and Iceland, and I like to think from Australia we're the same. But the Americans are pushing each other out of the way to get to the front of this queue and standing back thinking, what the hell? Like, I'm not used to it. I'm not even used to being around that many people. So,
no, exactly.
You know, there will be Americans that listen to this, nothing against them. It's just the way that the transport system is organised or what have you, you know. But it was very confronting at the time, especially because I was only about 20 or 21 at the time, and you're not really that confident.
Exactly.
But
no, exactly.
But your experience just sounds like piss poor management. Really bad management to then bloody add insult to injury and lose your guitars, your prized possessions, your tools of the trade, so to speak. What are they going to do for you?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just absolutely sucks, you know. And you know, that's just, you know, it was. I'm just still kind of like, don't know what the hell was going on, you know. It was like, as I said, like 33 hours of that kind of stuff. Pretty stressful. But I think, you know, it was pretty funny though. Like all of us, like it's actually kind of cool that we all just kind of formed like a community. Like all the people that were going onto this flight, and we were just like, we're not gonna take it. And like, it was just like.
So that was going from Madrid or Barcelona into Reykjavik. Is that how you say the capital? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Reykjavik. Okay. Reykjavik. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But it's that was from Barcelona till there. Yeah. We did a festival. Last weekend in the north of Spain. I did a festival called Tsunami, and you know, the Prodigy was playing in Hives, and it was really cool. Bad Religion. Yeah.
How were you received? Did people? I mean, you guys have got a wicked blues sound. So I take it that people in Spain would have really taken to you, because I know they're big fans of blues over there.
Yeah. They like the people of Spain have been super nice to us, like always, and you know, unlike some countries, especially like Iceland, you know, they really show that they're having a good time, you know, at a concert. You know, I can really tell, you know. You know, like sometimes in Iceland you like not get that much reaction, maybe, you know, like especially from, you know, certain types of people, like, you know, like metalheads would just go to our shows and like stand in front and just watch the guitar, you know, my fingers on the guitar, and I'm like, do you like what I'm doing? And they like look super pissed off looking, and then like after the show they're like, yeah, really good job, man, really good, I had a fantastic time. I was like, what really? And that's always funny.
Yeah. We don't want to show that we're enjoying ourselves too much during the performance, but we'll give you a pat on the back afterwards. A typical metal thing,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the album. Okay, Gateways. Yeah. So John sent me an email, and in the email it states that people that are into the Sword, I can definitely hear that, and I've spoken to one of the members of the Sword before, great band. I can hear references to the Sword.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Rival Sons.
Yeah, they're really cool.
You know, you've got Rival Sons and then Red Fang. I've spoken to one of those guys as well. Blues Pills, who I know about because I've interviewed Heidi in Pristine, so she told me about them. And Mastodon. They like what you guys have done across there, but are they obvious references, and what else would you add to that?
I think those were all references that didn't really come straight from us, but of course I like all of those bands, of course, but And I mean, I think it all goes into, like, in my mind, it just all goes into one big, pot that just kind of gets stirred together, and out comes what I play, And I never, it's never really, when I write something, it's never really, like, I can maybe name you one or two examples where I was like, yeah, something like that song, like something that has the same kind of feeling to that kind of thing, or something like that. But normally it just comes out pretty naturally. But yeah, I really enjoy. I think the Sword is really cool. Yeah, I like they have some of the best guitar riffs that are going today. I think they're all really interesting playing wise.
Well, you've got some stellar riffs. You've got bloody awesome riffs across this. So that's the thing, riff-based blues and roll, I like to call it. I hope that's not too broad a descriptor, but that's certainly what it reminds me of. And
cool.
I think you'll find if ever you get an opportunity to come down here, mate, that your music will be really well received, particularly in some of the sunnier climates. So north, I'm from Queensland, mate. So up here, mate, I just got this vision of you playing with a beach behind you. So I know that's completely the opposite to where you're from, but that's what I see.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd be super up for it. I hope we can, come, hopefully next year. I'm hoping, come over to, so that'd be awesome. But yeah.
How does it work on that front? Do you get a lot of opportunity? Do you get a big say in which countries you go to visit, or does management and Nuclear Blast tell you where to go?
Yeah, our management and one of our managers. We have two managers. One of our managers used to be our booker as well, so book all of the shows. But we recently signed to X-Ray Touring, and it's a pretty big company. They have Queens of the Stone Age. They have Eminem. They have awesome. Robbie Williams, and they have
cool.
a lot of big acts and that kind of stuff. And they, I think, we can of course say, hey, would like to go there. And then they're like, yeah, if it makes sense. And it's it's kind of all what makes commercially sense and that kind of stuff. Of course, if it would be up to us, we would be everywhere at the same time and going at it. But I think there's always more strategic. Yeah. Wow. I'm trying to drink my coffee so I can speak. But
no, you're right.
yeah. But yeah, I think they're trying to be smart about it. I think where we go. But I would love to go to Australia and New Zealand and do a tour there soon. So.
Yeah, you'd be really well received here, mate. I'm not just saying that. I wouldn't say it unless I really felt it would be the case. This sort of music, as you know, mate, we have a very strong tradition in this country of what we call pub rock. And AC/DC, Cold Chisel, that stuff is still very, very popular, and you're in a similar vein. So
exactly.
The sales numbers, the problem with having management and record companies, the way that they look at things, of course, they can't really take punts because they can't lose out on too many investments. But a country like Australia, the sort of rock and roll that you're playing with, that's what we do. So heaps of bands, Turbo Negro, Helicopters, you guys would do. I hope you guys do really well down here, and I'm proven correct, actually. It just depends on how well we can. I mean, I'm part of it. I've got to try to get this out there and promote it. But, the interesting thing for me, mate, is because I host a podcast series, most of my audience is in the USA.
Okay.
So I get a fraction of my listeners here in Australia. Well, you put it up on the internet, and I don't interview. I've interviewed a lot more Australian artists recently, but overall I've interviewed far more from outside of Australia than within. So you get the fans of the band listening, and they tend to be more of them overseas than there are in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's also like us, we're bigger outside of Iceland than we are in Iceland, So that's kind of, it's kind of, so we have the same thing going, I think.
Yeah. And let's talk about Iceland for a bit. So it fascinates me as a country. You've got to, like us, mate, you made the World Cup and the soccer, and you probably didn't do as well as I thought you were going to do, a bit like us as well. I thought we were going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But
we have it was a fun experience though. Fun seeing the guys doing, because we're I'm going to be totally truthful now. We're all of us in the band, we're not big football fans at all, but watching your country play and that kind of sort of thing is like, that was pretty amazing, really, really cool.
It's pretty inspiring. Yeah, it's pretty inspiring, especially countries. I know the thing is, so we don't really play football much in here in Australia. People will say that we do, but I think we play rugby union, Australian rules, rugby league, that sort of thing. That's what the majority people participate in soccer, but they don't participate in it professionally. So they might play. Like I've played heaps of soccer, but not professionally. It's just a fun game to play.
Yeah.
But
of course.
You have a very small population and you punched well above your weight to get a team into the World Cup. And I think a lot of the world was inspired by that Iceland success. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, I think, it's also, I remember when we were doing, when we were in EM, in that tournament, we won against England, and that was like, most surreal thing ever. We were in a bar in Germany and we watched that thing, and I mean, it just shows you, like, we did one photo of us like that we put on social media and we were like, we won, and that was like the most reaction we've ever had to anything that we've done, on social media.
Yeah.
It was like, a lot of a lot of reaction to that. And it's just, as like, that's cool, but like, it's at the same time you're like, football always wins, over. Shit, my alarm clock is going off.
You're right. No worries.
Yeah.
Hey, how much? Am I the last interview that you've got of the things?
Yeah,
have we got?
I have all the time.
Okay, sweet.
So,
all right, no worries. All right. So I think as far as Iceland's concerned, musically as well. And the cliche here is going to be Björk, because I think, or Björk, I think that's how you pronounce it, her name, isn't it? Yeah, it's she's about the only person that people outside of people, like the regular person, the mainstream person, would know as a musician in the limelight from Iceland. And the Sugar Cubes, of course. I think a band was called the Sugar Cubes back in the 90s.
Yeah. Björk was in Sugar Cubes, and I would also say Sigurós is, Sigurós is one. It's also pronounced Sigurós. Depends. But it's Sigurós is the band that also like has done really good things for, as I see it, like for other Icelandic musicians, because like they kind of brought the like Björk and Sigurós and also Solstafir, which is
they're brilliant,
like metal band.
Yeah, they're excellent. Yeah. I reviewed their album last year, and I was so taken with it. It was about the best. I know it's not strictly black metal, but you know what I'm saying. It sort of is in that vein.
Yeah. They have that label, They had that black metal label, and they've been trying to get rid of it ever since. They're like, we're not black metal, and people are always like, they always have that black metal thing going because of some article or their first record label. I think they were like black metal, and they were like, no. Or maybe their first album or two were kind of black metal, and then they stopped. But either way, I think those bands, they really did a lot of good for other Icelandic. They brought the the media and everybody kind of looking towards Iceland, like, oh, okay, what else do you have there?
Yeah, so. But that must be true for you guys too, because you're rather prominent, given that you're signed to Nuclear Blast. It's an extraordinarily prominent label, probably the most prominent metal label around. But do you feel that pressure to represent Iceland like that, or is it just one of those things where, this is where we're from, but this is what we're playing?
Yeah, I don't think too much about it. Yeah, I think normally just we just have fun playing, and we just live for the music, and we just keep on doing that. I mean, we try to keep the music, as stress free as possible. We try to keep that environment totally. I don't think too much about Iceland, especially because like Iceland didn't really care until we got, until we got like some. I'd say Iceland, like it's a one big, huge man or something. But no,
I know what you're saying, though. You're talking about. I know exactly. It's a common thing. A lot of the time, not a lot of the time, some of the time, what happens in Australia, bands get big in the US, and then they get where they've released an album or two in Australia, and nobody's given a shit, and then the Australian audience picks up on the success they've had in the US and wants to sort of get on that bandwagon. And
exactly.
I've spoken to some of those bands on the down low, and they're like, "We don't really get it. We haven't changed it all, but because we're successful in the States, now people accept us." Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's because it's also one of the problems with being like from a small country is like when you're like when because like people are like, oh yeah, Óskar, oh yeah, here's the guy from the other town from my living room. I'm not gonna check out his show because it doesn't seem. I think one of the things is just like it has to have some kind of charisma. It has to have some sort of people have to go to see something if they're like, oh yeah, nobody knows that man. He's been it has some mystery to it, blah blah blah. But like nothing is mysterious in Iceland. Everybody knows everybody, and it's like that kind of feeling. So I think when we got some success from outside of Iceland, and then people were like, oh yeah, I always loved them, and it's like, what, really? Never came to any of the shows. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit of that tall poppy syndrome that happens no matter where you're from, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's almost like
also we've been doing it for so long as well. We were playing. We were like overdoing the scene like hard. We were like playing since I was 13, 14. I started this band when I was like 10, 11 or something.
Yeah,
I
read that. You were bloody young. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm 23 right now, and I so I started this. So I like from every weekend since I was like 13, 14, I was playing like the bar. Just playing the bars. Few every weekend, every other weekend doing 2 shows, and so as from like 2009 until 2013, we were doing like a show every weekend or 2. So that's a lot of shows and played a lot. And I think people were were probably getting sick of us. But that all of that playing just made us, much more, just tighter as a unit. So.
So growing up, were you the bloke that could play all of the Led Zeppelin and Metallica riffs that people gravitated toward and asked to be in their band?
Yeah, I mean, I was like when I was, kind of. I used to go to the school with my guitar and have a good time, But it was like, but it was always like, I don't know. I never saw it as like bragging or something, but some people were definitely like, bragging. And, that was kind of funny actually. But but I remember when I was like 10 or something like that. Even 9 or 10. I remember that I just figured out, I had like an epiphany. I was like, oh, I could start a band. Like the bands that I'm listening to are just, other people making music. And I was like, I'm people. I can do that. and then I remember just walking around the school area. I was like, who wants to join a band? And ended up getting, we were like 5 at first, and then then we were 2 and 3, and it's been a fun ride. And I mean, I was watching some old footage when I was like 9 years old playing guitar. First, my dad did like a video of me like every month to see like the progress I was making. It's really interesting seeing like how much you progressed, on the guitar. The first 2 ones were really bad, but after that I got pretty, better.
I don't think people have an appreciation for how hard the guitar is to play, because people like you make it look so easy and sound so easy. But the reality is, and this is the God's honest truth, I play the bass and I dabble in the guitar. I have played it as a stage instrument, but I'm just not really suited to it. The bass is, particularly 5-string bass, is where my sweet spot, if you like, because I like playing disco music and funk music, and I play covers. So we do Kylie Minogue covers and really upbeat pop stuff.
I love Kylie Minogue.
Oh, cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, stuff's cool to play. Really nice and interesting to play, I've got to say.
Yeah.
As a bass guitarist, anyway. But, it's playing the guitar is... It's hard, man, isn't it? People don't have an appreciation of how difficult it is to get up to the level that you're at.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's... especially because, like, the guitar is such a vocal instrument, in a way, I think every guitarist has kind of their own kind of voice, I think, and of course, every instrument has that aspect to it, but I think especially the guitar, because like just especially how you attack the string, how you bend it, because like that's, you could just kind of develop your own kind of voice for the thing, and they're just like there are not many guitarists that I'm gonna say this, like that I believe, because like I like believing when somebody plays something. I'm like, oh yeah,
I understand. Yeah,
he means that. Like that comes from a place, within him, and I think the hardest thing about playing guitar is just reaching that place where you can just, express exactly how you're feeling, and actually just trying to make the instrument talk, in that sort of aspect. I think of notes as like words, and everybody can play, say the words, say like, everybody doing good tonight, or they can say everybody doing good tonight, just that kind of,
you've nailed the detail in it.
That's the difference. Yeah. You have to have the, the punctuation or whatever you call it, have that present,
Oh, it's the same thing. You bang on, and I do in my role. It's not really a role. I do this. I don't get paid for it, of course. God, who gets paid for doing indie journalism? But I have formed the same opinion you have. So I reviewed the Deicide album, the band Deicide, today, and there's something just lacking there, and I need to live with it a bit longer. But the nature of the beast is you've got to sort of do the review fairly quickly before the album comes out to entice people to sort of check it out and all the rest of it. But
exactly, yeah.
I listened to a bloke like Michael Schenker. He's very believable, very believable.
Yeah.
It's incredible what he does, and I spoke to his singer Robin McCauley, the fella that had sung with him for many years, and
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Robin's an excellent artist in his own right, so you don't feel that comfortable talking about Michael when you're talking to Robin, who's a very accomplished singer. But I'd love to talk to Michael and really get the down low on what got him going, because I think he's a very sensitive soul as well. He's been in a few bands and had a few projects, so he's one of those guys that every note that he plays, he does more with one note, for example, than a lot of guys do with an entire bloody page. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I feel that way about. Exactly, yeah. I mean, especially also with like B.B. King and Albert King, those guitarists, and of course Paul Kossoff from Free. That's one of my favorite guitarists. And I play way faster than these guys, and I sometimes have to stop myself, and I'm like, I'm playing way too many notes here, and try to make every note count a little more, but like. You can just hear, when those guys, how they bend the strings, how they attack the instrument. Is just like, it's very believable. It's just kind of like the guitar is just like an extension of them, and also just, B.B. King says, I've said this a few times, probably Yngwie Malmsteen will find me and kill me, but I think B.B. King says more with one note than, a whole Yngwie Malmsteen album,
Yeah, Yngwie's had a lot of. There's been a lot of comments about that, and I think in part, I'm a fan of Yngwie, and I've seen him live a couple of times, a couple of tours that he's done down here since I've been over 18 and I could go to them. But there's a bit too much ego in his performance, and that's what makes it not so believable, I think, with Yngwie, because he can bloody play, but he doesn't need to be such an egomaniac.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not taking away that it takes a lot of talent to play like that. But at the end of the day, if you keep getting hit in the head, on the head, and just kind of just becomes one long kind of like just like dribble, just kind of get desensitized for it when you hear 4,000 notes in the first 1 minute, then you're just kind of like, oh, okay, all right, cool, and you're just kind of back off. At least I do. I can only speak for myself, but
Well, no, you're not wrong. It's the first four albums, or three up to but the first one is it Rising, then God, I'm going off my old memory here. Rising, Marching Out, Marching Out is his best in my view. I love that album, and then Trilogy. I think he nailed those three. But then after that, I pretty much have packed it in. I only listened to those three albums.
Yeah, exactly. There are some artists that are like that, have the first few just completely down. I think one of the best examples, like one of my favorite bands is Captain Beyond. It's a 70s band that didn't, weren't particularly popular. They were on the same management as the Shalalas or something, like a ridiculous thing, but they were like a really cool progressive hard rock band, and and their first album is just absolutely killer, and that album just blew my mind. And then I just started listening to the other albums, and I was like, is this the same band? It just didn't really add up. It's weird how some people just finish, like, they have some magic and they just make one thing that's just absolutely amazing, and then one or two or three, and then just kind of withers away.
Yeah, a lot of bands are like that.
That's probably the most nerve-wracking thing about making music, I think. But I don't try to think about it at all. Just try to like keep it interesting for myself, and that's how I see it. But like knowing that that's a very like a possibility. One day you can just start to make some dribble and think it's okay.
Well, I think okay. So Bowie, I think, got it right by constantly reinventing himself. So I think that's how he got around it. But he's as much a magician as he is as an artist. Okay, so chameleon.
Exactly.
So he can do that. But his because I like to think I go very broad when I start thinking about things, particularly as a musician. I love the idea of musicians collaborating with people that are potentially in a very different musical space than what they're in. Now,
exactly.
I love a lot of French house music. So Daft Punk, Cassius. I'd love to see you do some work with Thomas Bangalter from Daft Punk, or even the guys from Cassius. I think that's a collaboration that would be beautiful to listen to. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, because I'll be open for everything like that, and I think also just so as you said, sometimes the like most unlikely combination of people just make really interesting stuff. For example, the Black Keys worked with Danger Mouse for the last, I don't know, 4 albums or something like that.
Really?
It's like a hip hop producer or something like that, I think. But he brought a lot of interesting stuff to the table, and did a really interesting sound. Just did a really how to say it? Just like a kind of like a world of sound that wouldn't really normally make sense for rock, but just kind of makes sense. So I think that's one of the interesting combinations of
it's hard
artist.
Yeah, it's really hard to, especially as an artist in your position, I think, because I know you're not just starting out, but a lot of you're going to go to new territories like the US, where the perception is you're going to be starting out, or you're breaking into that market there.
Exactly.
And people like identifiably. They like product that they can identify very easily. So you go to the supermarket, you buy a can of Coke, you know what you're buying. People are like that with music. They tend to bloody replicate the most simple thing in their life and put it across to everything else. And music isn't like that. Music is constantly changing and it's evolving, but it's really hard to break into a market that you're not already in if you don't already have a catalogue of identifiable music behind you, and then that sort of boxes you into producing music that you're currently doing. So as soon as you experiment, you get hit with you're a sellout, or we don't know what the hell you're doing here, or whatever it might be. And artists constantly face that. It's a struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's like, it's not meant for people to make the same album again and again after they have a hit, like, oh, I loved, I don't know, Rumors or something with Fleetwood Mac, and but the album they did after that, Tusk, is like completely different and that kind of stuff, and more experimental and that kind of stuff. And I think also with us, like every album we try out something different, have a different take on things, and try to make it interesting for ourselves, and it's going to be interesting seeing, like, I think probably some people that were used to the previous album are probably going to think, like, they're definitely going to, I think, probably appreciate the new album, but probably there's some aspects on that they weren't expecting. And I think it's a good thing to, like, get your, like, fan base used to that you're trying out new stuff. Especially with us, because we haven't had like a hit album at all. So I think doing a lot of different stuff within, there's some like even on the new album, there's some Al Green / Bootsy Collins kind of a, I wouldn't say a reference, but just like an inspiration. Like, we drew some inspiration from those guys in one of the songs, So we try to like try to keep it interesting in that aspect.
You're right, actually. That's an avenue for you guys, actually, because I really like Beck as well. And Beck identified very early on via an album called Odelay. You might have this album, really good album from 1996, that taking the slacker elements of funk can work really well. So a lot of guys like Bootsy, and I've got a big block-mounted frame poster here of Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone. Yeah,
awesome.
he was also Prince's bass player for a while as well. Being a bass guitarist, I guess they're my heroes, but they've got a very upbeat cadence, and I try to reference that. But with you guys taking the slacker elements of funk and almost inducing a bit of a country element, so work with me here when I say that, because I know it sounds like it's polar opposites, but especially for the way that you play guitar, because you're a very accomplished guitarist, you could actually pull that off.
Thank you. That's very nicely put. Thank you. But I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's all possible for sure. I mean, it's but yeah, sorry, I've kind of lost train of thought.
Sorry. No, that's all right. No, it's compliments are only issued when they're due. Believe me, I don't issue them too much. I've actually had a really good night with interviews. I interviewed. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong here because he's from Norway. Grutel Kjelsen from Enslaved. So I spoke to him.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, I just spoke to him before I spoke to yourself, and so he's in Norway.
I
hope he's not from Sweden. I hope he's from Norway. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he's from Norway. He's from Norway. Yeah, Enslaved from Norway. Yeah.
There you go. And I spoke to Frederick Leclerc, who's in Sinsanum, and there, of course, got Joey Jordison from Slipknot in the band, but. Really, a bit like the conversation we're having now, really good, really in-depth conversations about music, knowledgeable musicians who really give a shit about their craft and want to really be engaging during the conversation and the like. So, no, it's I've spoken to 3 really bloody good musicians at the top of their game tonight. It doesn't always happen that way, to be honest with you. So,
exactly.
Sometimes you speak to artists and I wouldn't say they don't care, but it's just another interview. Yeah, let's just get through it. I'll give you this answer and then get to the next one.
They have the stock answers ready and just go for them. Yeah, exactly.
How do you find the interviews with the international media? Is it say I get the feedback from people because I talk to people from all over the world, obviously, that the English and the Australians are fairly similar. Do you find that, or are we different and unto ourselves, or are we just like everybody else?
I don't know. I mean, I think. It's a bit more, free flowing, and it doesn't feel like, it just has a kind of. I just feel like I'm just chatting to an old friend or something like that. It's cool, not like okay, so what was the inspiration for the new album? And it's like, and it's like, oh, it's this and this, and then like, okay. Sometimes some of the European media can be a little bit like that. It's very dry, but I would say, I'm very much enjoying this. So that's cool. That's always good when you just kind of get lost in the conversation and just keep it going like that. Yeah. But I mean, well, of course, it makes sense to go to all the all the more obvious questions and that kind of stuff. It's always makes sense, for the promotion and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, actually, I was talking to this is a while ago. I was talking to Aaron from the band Under Oath. He also performs in Paramore and. He was because he spends quite a bit of when he comes to Australia, he tends to spend quite a bit of time here going surfing. And I said, look, who gives you the toughest interviews? And he was saying, words to the effect of the Germans do, because what they do is there's not a lot of tact there and there's not a great deal of humour. And they say, well, your last album was pretty shit, but you seem to have rectified it with this album here. What happened?
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of thing is very confrontational. They don't mean to be, of course. It's just the nature of being German, I suppose,
Exactly. I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's also really interesting just speaking with some German fans sometimes, because it's just they're like, new, like when we did, because there's a bit of a difference between the album we made called Voyage and Arrival. Arrival was a bit more, decided to experiment a bit more with prog rock, so it got a little bit heavy and a little a little dark at times, and I think the feel good heavy metal rocker or whatever, that kind of type didn't really get some of it. So I remember at least 2 German fans coming up to me and were like, yeah, new album, don't get it, don't like it, but Voyage, great. They're just kind of like, oh, okay. Just very upfront about what they like and don't like, but that's that's cool. I mean, they're at least very honest. I appreciate that, actually.
Yeah, so that was Arrival was your first album for Nuclear Blast. So did they issue any instructions to you about the direction that they felt you should go toward, or were you just left completely to your own devices to produce something?
Yeah, it was definitely just all us, and I don't think they could have swayed us from doing anything else than that, because so they re-released the 2012 album Voyage in 2014, and that album, I think it did it did better, I think, and we just really, but with Arrival we just really wanted to experiment and see what we like kind of delve into that kind of complex proggy kind of thing, I think, but with a new album, I think, I think we kind of just took what we learned from those two albums and put especially I mean, we also did an album in Iceland, one that wasn't released outside of Iceland, so I mean,
that was the first one, wasn't it? The self-titled album.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, we just made 1,000 copies of that one, and just it's kind of sold out. So kind of, I found a few copies the other day, but I mean, we just kind of drew inspiration from, we just kind of learned from those albums, and, so, I mean, we haven't really gotten any instruction from anyone I mean, of course, the typical label thing to say is like, we need a hook, we need something catchy, we need a hit song, It was kind of funny the first time we heard that, of course, because like we were in, I don't know, we were meeting with somebody from the label, and they were like, yeah, the new album, it's dark, or something like that. And they were like, that's a little, and I was like, yeah, it's
sure
like
is.
It was like, yeah, it's like hard to sell. I was like, yeah, and we're like, we need more hits, and that when I heard we need more hits, I was like, oh, this is so. I thought it was kind of funny. It's kind
That's
of
a cliche, isn't it? Yeah, stereotypical. It's a cliche.
Very much so. So, but I don't think we didn't really, we felt some pressure, of course. We were like, oh, do we have to do this? And then we were like, fuck it, let's just do what we do, and we did it. And I'm really just happy about how the new album came about. How it came out. Yeah, really happy.
So have you got an album by album deal with Nuclear Blast, or is it a block thing where you've got a few more albums to release with them?
Yeah, I think it was 3 albums we signed up for. That was in 2013. So this is our second full release. Maybe it's. I don't know if the re-release counted as a one release, but yeah, I don't know. But it's but we're enjoying we're enjoying working with them a lot. Yeah, actually. Yeah,
I haven't heard any bad things. Sometimes what happens is I tell the artist that I'm interviewing, the interview's over, and they go, hang on a sec, I'll tell you really what happened, but you've got to promise not to tell anybody. Sometimes that happens, but I've never heard anything bad about Nuclear Blast.
No,
I haven't. I've heard. I had a really good chat to Heidi from Pristine about her experiences with them, and it was very positive. And they're a similar band to you guys, as you know, in terms of it's not metal; it's sort of to the side. It's a blues thing, and so you're going to attract a different fan base. But they'd know that before they sign you guys. They'd know that you're not Slayer for God's sakes, or Anthrax or something, and you're not going to produce a thrash metal record with a big anthem on it. It's not you guys, and to shoehorn you in and do. It's not like what happened to Celtic Frost in the bloody 80s, where Noise Records were forcing them to.
I didn't.
Well, what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
This is what I understand. Okay, so from my own reading, and this is my own readings taken from all sorts of different sources on the web, because God help us, where else do we get our information from these days? But
exactly. Yeah.
Look, I think they were releasing very complex avant-garde music that could veer from classical compositions to slightly thrashy stuff. Then some black metal stuff, and then wailing and all sorts of weird stuff. And people, the media had trouble categorizing them. What are you? Are you thrash? Are you proto-death metal like what Possessed and Death, the band from Florida, is doing? What are you guys? And Noise Records, I think, just being a business, are going, you guys need to be more easy to understand and more easy, you need to be identifiable. So you guys have got to start producing some music which fits into a certain category. So then they came out with Cold Lake. Now, I don't mind Cold Lake. In 1988 that was released. The photos are terrible, and I think that's what most people who have an issue with the band, because they look like Poison or something from that era.
Oh.
And you can see one of, like, because these aren't regular Celtic Frost members. You got Thomas Gabriel Fisher, and that's it. The other guys, I think, weren't it. Like Martin Eric Ain, the fellow who unfortunately passed away last year or a couple of years ago, who was typically his right-hand man on bass, he'd stepped out of the band completely by then. No idea about the reason why, but I imagine it was in frustration. And Thomas had brought in these guys by the name of Kurt Victor Bryant and a few other guys, but they look like glam rockers. And there's one of these ridiculous photos where you can see one of the guys' pubes. Like, you can see his chest hair, his stomach hair merging into his pubes. It's terrible. You can look it up online.
Great.
It's a really...
Great.
I didn't pick it up for years until I started reading about the real issues that people have with it, and it's what they look like. The music's there, though, truth be told. Like, the music's not avant-garde. It's fairly straightforward. But I used to listen to it when I was going to the gym quite a bit. But look, that's and I don't think Thomas Fisher, without speaking for him, this is only my perception of things. You know, I don't think he's ever gotten over the way the band was treated back then, because they can never reform because Martin Eric Ain's dead. He's passed away.
Yeah, I see.
And I spoke to Peter Tagtren from Hypocrisy, from the Swedish musician. He produced their last album. And which was Monotheist. And we talked a lot about, not the politics, we didn't get into that, but I just wanted to know his take on what he wanted to do with the band. And the band were very, very serious when they went into the studio and to try to do that. And I don't know whether they got the response that they thought because it was a different again, but what also Celtic Frost were going to do. They never come out with the same thing twice.
No, exactly.
And it's just, I think that they were an extreme band, a band that was a band for the underground, a band that was for real heavy metal fans, if you like, and the record company effectively told them to be something else, and it just didn't quite work. And consequently, I think potentially we've lost as an audience 2 or 3 solid albums of material that could have been released if they were given more artistic freedom. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, one of my favorite bands ever, like Rush. I mean, they had that kind of pressure. You know, they released an album called Caress of Steel. And that was like 2 songs that are over 10 minutes and that kind of stuff. And they were like the record label were like, just be like Bad Company or something like that. And they were like, no. Yeah. And then they made their like most famous, their one of their most famous albums, 2112. And that album just, blew everybody away and just kind of gave them their own right to just speak their mind and make the music they wanted to do.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. That's unfortunate, don't you think, that those days are gone? I mean, I'm not one of those guys who thinks yesteryear was better than now. Love the good old days. I've never been like that. But
exactly. Yeah.
There is an element of truth, I suppose, in it a little bit, in that a band, as someone as confident as yourself behind the instrument, in bands used to get given so much money back then that they didn't know what to do with it. And, of course, it was a very different investment scenario from record companies' perspective back then than it is today. So you really had to be confident, like as though you were running a company back then, and say, I've got this, leave me alone, let's do this. Because if you didn't do it, then you'll probably drop from your record label and your career effectively ended.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a total different ball game right now. So it's probably kind of difficult to even kind of, compare the two. Different times, I think. Yeah, it's probably, it's different for sure.
What do you think? Yeah. I'll make this about my last question, mate, because I know you've been a champion for talking to me this much. It's been a fascinating chat, by the way. But I've been talking for almost an hour, mate, and I don't want to keep it too long, given you've had such an ordeal with the airline. But what do you think is the best medium to listen to your music? So, for example, in my home here, I've got a cassette player. I've got like a record player. I've got a CD player, and I've also got my MP3s here. What would you prefer in a perfect world for people to consume your music via?
I mean, vinyl is always, for me, I mean, it's the most, I'm quoting Josh Homme here, but the most romantic way to experience music, just the kind of, I collect vinyl myself, and I would like people to experience the music we make in the same sort of way, because especially the new album, it's very dynamic and it's warm sounding without but it's also punchy, and so it's kind of so I think vinyl would be a really good platform for that. Just love the fact that you can kind of just control it. You have the sleeve, you can just kind of you can look, like if it's a good album cover, you can just kind of listen to the album and just kind of especially when you were a kid, you can just kind of make your own kind of world and your own interpretation of the album cover and all that kind of stuff when you just kind of delve into it. I think that's one of the best things about it, you know.
Well
having
spoken.
something spinning in front of you.
Yeah, well, that's what I try to do with my kids, mate. I in the morning when they wake up, it's either put on a CD, a record, or a cassette. You know, take your pick. I've got a few, and people send me things, and I just take which one you like and put it on, and get the kids involved and engage that way, rather than looking at, you know, father was probably a while away for you, but I've got 2 daughters, and it's so hard these days with computers, meaning iPhones and iPads. Mate,
exactly.
They're just addicted to them, and it's such a struggle with them, particularly my eldest.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, it's also, I spoke to my, I went to the guitar school that I used to be in when I was, age 10 to 16, and until they kicked me out. No, kind of. But they, I went there, and they were telling me that, like, you know, that they were getting like a lot less of kids coming in, because like, and he kind of said, like, they felt, the kids were like, kind of felt it was kind of like a, you know, struggle to actually have to hold down strings, and like, it kind of hurts when I'm touching my iPad, it doesn't hurt, and like, that kind of mental, that was kind of how they saw it. So I mean, I think it's kind of, it was also affecting that, because like they could be like, I just have an app and I could just press C and it plays C or something, you know, and you know, so he told me that kind of thing was actually having an effect on kids that were coming in and just finding it to be a struggle, you know, to play it.
It's shit. Yeah, I know it's shit. Yeah. It is what it is, mate. We can't control the world. We can only
no, exactly. Yeah, I'm too young to be like to saying damn kids, like, like, so.
Well, give it time, mate. Yeah, all of the pressures of fatherhood, they're all there waiting for you, and give it time for that to happen too. Don't rush into it. Believe me.
Yeah. I won't.
You know. Well, thanks very much, Oscar. I really appreciate it. This has been a fascinating chat. Really appreciate your candor all the way through it. Yeah. You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was a conversation between myself and Oscar from the band, the Vintage Caravan. Thank you so much for listening.